my pleasure to introduce Claudiu Popa. I met Claudiu about 5 years ago and was amazed from day one about the depth and breadth of information that he brings, as long as the passion that he brings. He is CEO of Informatica Security, as well as the founder of the KnowledgeFlow Foundation. And with that, I will pass it on to Claudiu. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Diana. That's a fantastic introduction. There are tremendous, if not infinite, opportunities in this space, and we're looking to develop passionate people. So for us at the foundation, it's about developing cyber safety individuals, so cyber safety champions that are here to change things for the better. When we talk about cybersecurity, it's such a broad field, and yet we managed to narrow it down because each and every one of us has a passion about something. I've got 4 little kids, and each one of them loves to tinker with things. They've got, whether it be their computers or their Nintendo gaming platforms or whatever tool they're using, they can adapt their minds to find solutions to bugs. And they have now become attuned to the fact that if you're going to help yourself, you need to be able to tell right from wrong, or good from bad, or misinformation from legitimate information. So that's what our topic is for tonight. And with your permission, I'll move on. By all means, if my sound dies or you find me gesticulating, just cut off the feed and I'll know. But for now, I'll assume that you can all hear me. One of the key things that I impart to young people is to look around and realize just how many people are excited about cybersecurity. This is such a green field. There are so much to contribute, and those contributions will matter. The key message for my presentation tonight is that you don't have to be an expert in every one of these fields. You need to be able to recognize expertise and recognize legitimate information, so you can tell the difference between scams and actual quality data. This is why I'm often asked to contribute, and it's always my pleasure to contribute to presentations and events like this one, or on TV, or what have you. When people come to your school and you have opportunities like these to talk to experts, always look for professional certifications, not just because you want to know if someone is kind of posing as an expert, but also because it gives you an idea of the direction that you want to go into. I get approached all the time by young people saying, I'm interested in doing software development or computer science or game development or anything like that. And it makes sense that if you see someone who is articulate and informative, look for those certifications. So that's why I put them front and center. So it gives you ideas that you really need to be asking, hey, what is your exact claim to fame? What's your credibility level? And what is the profession that you practice? Essentially, as I said, we develop cyber safety champions, and there are some secrets to becoming a cyber safety champion, and they're a lot simpler than you think. They have to do with what you're passionate about. That's foundational, right? So discovering your superpower means, what do you do on a daily basis using computers, and how can you turn that into a positive, into a way that you can help other people? What tools do you use? What are the perhaps games or perhaps utilities that you use to help yourself? And then turn that around and see if you can help others, or just teach them, empower them. Developing cyber situational awareness has everything to do with seeing misinformation. I talk to my kids on a daily basis about these types of things. And for example, this week they're excited about playing chess online. And I shouldn't say this week, they've been playing it for months, but they've figured out profiles of people who are trying to game the system. They figured out little cheats that other people are using to perhaps try to gain an advantage. They've figured out what bugs exist in the system. And if you develop that kind of cyber situational awareness, you too can have the advantage of figuring out who's there for real and who's there to essentially abuse the system. And you can leverage that to share that information with others. Playing the short versus the long game is the way that you can strategize how you're going to take advantage of the information that you discover. If you find that people are trying to, let's say, fool you into using an app to download a mobile app, for example. And we see tons of mobile apps, and every time you download a mobile app, there's some sort of a pop-up, and that pop-up tells you that you need to share access to your microphone or your camera or whatnot. And then you say, okay, well, let me just think about that for a second. And you read the privacy policy, and it says, well, we share your information with third parties or vendors or service providers or some other kind of company or an internet, an ISP, a service provider. Think twice about that, right? Now, it's up to you whether you want to report it and to ask more questions right then and there, or you want to wait until later until you find some evidence that they're doing sketchy things, and then you can maybe file a complaint with our privacy commissioners. Anyone can. And it's a beautiful thing if you've got that experience to do it, because there's so much nowadays that you can bring to the attention of the agency that's called the Privacy Commissioner. In particular, Privacy Commissioner of Canada. They need all the help they can get to identify some of these things. So imagine if you yourself could bring some of that wisdom and visibility to them so that they can have another look, because they certainly won't be hanging out in the same places as you do. So having that kind of experience is amazing, and that gives you a lot of confidence and a lot of control over your own little corner of that digital world. Us old guys, we call young people digital natives because they were born at a time where the internet was here. They were born swiping left or right on the TV screen because they're used to doing that on a platform. I didn't even have a color TV as I was growing up, so there was no swiping. I was just told to stay away from the TV so it doesn't come crashing down on me because it was so large and heavy. So you have an opportunity to take ownership of this. And this is the world that you were born in. So you yourself can develop those skills and actually say, you know what? I know that part of my digital world better than anybody else. And that's what we mean by being unhackable. So it's a wonderful thing. We have this idea that if we see bad things or abuses online, we say not on my internet. That's actually, there shouldn't be a space before internet, but it's one hashtag, and we encourage people to use it or not if they don't want to. But the point is, come together and help others, and that's a great feeling. And again, it's about knowing certain things that shouldn't necessarily be secrets, but you can see that you come across these opportunities. These opportunities are things like, as I said, falsities that you see on social media. In many cases, they are scams, and to you, they're obvious, but to other people, they probably aren't. So write a comment and say, you know what, I think this is a scam. Or in my case, I sometimes go and get a nice big clip art and I paste it into the comments and I say, no, this is clearly a scam. Make sure that you report this. I've already done it. And then you pass on the word. So identify things that that are trying to break the rules in online games. Don't let these people get away with things, because these platforms really appreciate it. And we've seen situations where kids who report bad behavior on online games get rewarded. Locate them in privacy policies. This is something that at the foundation we talk to kids about all the time. You need to have some fun reading privacy policies. So open a privacy policy, look for the word share. Just press Control F, see if you can, if it's on your computer, see if you can find information about sharing data and who it's shared with. And if it's shared with any more than the company that you're actually working with, well, then you need to think twice about installing that app. And also expect these kinds of things to arrive right on your doorstep in your inbox, right? Because you're now a citizen of the internet and you're receiving the same kinds of stuff that we receive at work, that our clients receive in their inboxes every single day. And they want people to click, and they want people to enter their information. They want them to open an attachment and watch it explode on their computer and have somebody infect it. So you will have tons of opportunities to find these things because they're all over the place. Education technology, ed tech today is a particular culprit. There's some really great ed tech out there, and there's some ed tech out there that you really are going to feel like, wait a minute, should I really have my picture posted on a cloud-based system, regardless of whether it comes through the school? So you ask questions. Asking questions is your superpower. And you say stop until you get an answer to that question. So it's the idea here, and you're going to find that this is a recurring trend with my presentations, is how do you contribute? Who do you contribute to? So you want to ask questions about, what does the law say? You're never too young to understand the fact that there are laws that are there to protect you and your family. Okay, it's as simple as that, right? But sometimes those laws go back to the 90s or the 80s in some cases. So the laws governing what technology goes into your school, they go back to the early 80s. Guess what? No internet, right? So here's technology that we're using in classrooms that didn't exist when that law was made. Do you think the law will protect you? It won't. So you want to determine whether regulations have been modernized. If they haven't, then do schools have policies that protect you? Principals are great people to talk to. They're extremely friendly and helpful. And you also want to be able to talk to your peers about this kind of thing. And you ask the question, who is it that's responsible for the technology that we're seeing in our classroom today? Is your teacher educated to use that new tool? Maybe there's an AI driven something or other, or a new tool for creating sounds or speaking French or doing math or whatever it might be. These could be really fun tools, but are they collecting information from you, or do you collect information from them? It's important to know these things because it will help you develop your superpower. In some cases, you're going to find that you have a knack for finding a lot of these little abusive little apps. And if you've got the ability to formulate the right question, well, you'll be able to get answers out of people. And if you can't get answers out of people, ask your parents to do that. You can bet that your parents are always going to be on your side. So if you're ready for that kind of involvement, that's the type of thing that will surface your interests and determine which aspects of cybersecurity interest you. And you don't have to create a career out of it if you don't want to. You can just create a skill set, and you can apply that skill set to a variety of other jobs. There are tons of engineering jobs and business jobs and administrative jobs that will do that you'll be able to do so much better if you develop your cyber situational awareness. And of course, you'll always have a skill that will position you to be better than other people. So for example, you and I see clickbait on a regular basis. Clickbait is really simple, right? It's the headlines on YouTube, for example. You'll never guess what happened when, or the types of incomplete sentences, the types of interesting looking thumbnails, the types of inviting titles that we see, and then we click on them and we see that we're, you know what, we're kind of disappointed because it's not what we thought it was. That's clickbait. As soon as you click, there's information about you that has been shared with that poster. If you can resist it and then develop a bit of a skill around identifying it ahead of time, you can just laugh at it and move on and know that you have saved time and you have denied somebody from having access to your personal information without your consent. And that's a key fundamental aspect of your human right to privacy. So gamifying privacy is exciting. Right? You read a privacy policy, you see gaps in the privacy policy, you see that a company reserves the right to sell your information to another. Well, there's a hard stop right there, right? So we're not going to be playing that game, and we're going to be reporting it, right? There's a game that is looking to sell your information to somebody else, and you're denied from playing this, even though you were promised to play it. Well, why don't you try reaching out to the privacy commissioner, see how they feel about it. But before you do that, make sure you talk to your teacher, talk to your parents, because they'll allow you to formulate better questions. And if you've got the skill to identify people who are trying to game the system or hack an online platform, online game, anything like that, those are pretty cool skill sets to have. And we've seen, in particular in the past year, since the pandemic, in fact, we've seen young people turn this into real money. So we've seen bug bounty programs. Different companies will pay just about anybody to report things that might be broken on their website. If that is something significant, well, sometimes these young people get paid a ton of money. One of them made $1 million last year, and that was mind-blowing because it illustrated just the potential of what you can do with a hobby, and a hobby that you're getting better at each and every day by investing your evenings and perhaps your weekends in something that you're passionate about. So it's exciting stuff. And you can always just watch for abuses. Remember the word consent. You need to be asked to share your personal information, right? When we started tonight's presentation, there was a little pop-up and there was a voice that came on that said, this presentation will be recorded. That is consent, right? You are providing consent. It's either implied consent where you don't have to do anything, or it's express or explicit consent where you say, okay, yes, right? But you need to be given an opportunity to provide some kind of consent, because in Canada, that's the basis of our enforcement of the human right to privacy, which, by the way, has been around since 1948. So it's nothing new. It's just that the internet is such a great tool for people who are looking to grab as much information as possible, and by the same token, grab consent from people without informing them of what they're consenting to. That's illegal, and you can say no to it, right? You can put a stop to that kind of stuff. So looking here at the clock, we're looking to wrap up. Try to think about what it would take to either be a responsible professional, not necessarily in the security field, but in any field. Any field is enhanced by you having some of this cyber situational awareness, right? You don't have to be a security super god, right? You need to understand something about the technology that you're using. You need to think defensively. You need to know the rights that we just talked about. You need to strive to be a good communicator, if only because you need to ask the right questions. Hey, is this company asking me for consent properly? Hi, I'm a 14-year-old or a 17-year-old at such and such a school. I'm concerned about this piece of technology. I don't know that I ever saw them asking me for proper consent, right? That kind of thing. And suggest solutions, right? Everything that we do at the Cybersafety Foundation has to do with this idea that you have to participate, you have to contribute, and we have the Unhackathon, which is a fantastic thing that is exactly what you think it is, and Cyber Day. And Cyber Day is an annual event that happens that brings together schools, educators, students, and families. And we have tremendous opportunities to learn about these subjects that so many different people are passionate about. So you've got all these different things going on at the same time, and you learn about new stuff, and you learn more about the stuff that you're passionate about. So there's a ton of stuff. There's, for example, the Cyber Safety Academy on the KnowledgeFlow.ca, KnowledgeFlow.org site, which is also reachable at KnowledgeFlow.ca. Free education for everybody all the time. So again, I love transferring this information. If you see something that you learn that you're passionate about, that makes sense to you, share it with somebody else. And you're now a cybersecurity communicator, right? You don't even have to communicate. You can download a tip sheet. And these tip sheets are useful for your grandparents, for example, for your parents, for any kinds of peers, colleagues, adults, teachers, etc. You don't have to get into arguments with people about why it's better to have a longer password than a shorter password. You can say, you know what, here's a tip sheet, right? Just share it and it will speak for you until you're ready to do so, right? That's what we mean when we talk about the authority of being a professional, right? And there are tip sheets for everything. And if you see people who need help, because in many cases, people who need help, kind of their world keeps on shrinking. They are typically bullied, and cyberbullying is one of the key catalysts that got me to start this foundation 15, 17 years ago. Cyberbullying, the kids were hurting each other and themselves, and they continue to do so. It's a tragic situation, and they don't know about these tips. They may be obvious to you, but you might know somebody who could benefit. So by all means, share that information, and that's all it takes to be a cyber safety champion and to be well on your way to having that cyber situational awareness that will put you on track for discovering what type of cybersecurity career, if any, you're interested in. So with that, thanks very much for your time. It's a fantastic event. I'm really proud of having been offered the opportunity to speak with you all. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I know we're tight on time, so we should move on. Thank you.